Today we're going to be talking about V for Vendetta. If you watch this movie, you'll see how eerily similar it is to the spontaneous events that are going on today, with everything from a virus pandemic to protests and the installation of curfew laws. This is known as predictive programming, when they introduce an idea so it's not so foreign, alien, and unheard of, but the public, the audience, they almost comes to expect it to happen in their real lives. It's kind of like if you were to put a frog into steaming hot water, instinctively it would just jump out. But if you put it in cool water, slowly turn up the temperature, let it adjust, then it won't even know that it's being boiled alive. So too do the elites. They always take these little baby steps. If they were to just take away all of our freedoms at once, then they would have a rebellion on their hands. They're way too smart. They've been doing this too long. They know the right procedures to do. So now we're seeing that all those things in the movie that were made to appear fictional are all starting to come true. We can conceptualize the corruption of government on so many levels, and what happens as it gets more power, and what happens to people when they speak up against that power, such as Creedy's black bag, and he makes people disappear. This is analogous to our CIA, FBI, whatever, where they make people have an unfortunate accident, or will label them as a terrorist, so that way it's more receivable for the populace. There has always been this timeless tango, this battle between the individual and the state. The individual appreciates their freedom. They don't want to be told what to do all the time, always being micromanaged. But the state, in order for it even to exist, it has to order people around, tell them what to do. It's all about control. So a lot of politics is about some kind of balance to be struck between the individual and the state, if a balance even can exist. I don't think there is one, because once you set a master above you, then over time they'll just get away with more and more things, and those who control it will, like we see in the movie, it just becomes blatantly obvious that those people aren't free, and we're in those mid stages. We're not quite there yet, but let's see. Like the travesty that occurs to V, the horrible thing that happens to his body, if only we knew all the classified documents, the top secret research, the covert operations that we pay for through our taxes that are done around the world, in labs, in underground bunkers, at the behest of the elites. This could be such things as cloning or grotesque experiments that they justify as being for the betterment of mankind. So don't ever let somebody tell you that you owe a debt to society, or you have to help humanity because some god or ethical conundrum says that you have to. Because when you do that, you're just allowing yourself to be taken advantage of by those who control those areas, that will force everyone who abides by them into things that they may or may not want to do. For example, for those who recently lost their jobs and are worrying and starving and filled with anxiety because of the virus, it could care less if you work or not, but it is attention that is given to public health, state mandates, and politicians that really took away everyone's livelihood. And they base this on the word of leading experts and professionals who are in on the plot. Later I'm going to talk about self-reliance and depending on yourself or a tight-knit community, just being more independent, so it doesn't matter what the government does or doesn't do, or if there's inflation economy because banks are messing up, or if all the grocery stores suddenly shut down, which might happen this winter, or if there's a big blackout and nobody knows what to do because they can't say, hey Google, how do I do this or that? We've purposefully been made to be helpless. That's what we've been trained to be as a populace under civilization. Because from womb to tomb, everywhere their laws and patriotism are impressed on us simply for being born in a country, and there is nowhere to go to opt out and escape since the whole planet is owned by one political body or another. Instead, it is our duty to vote away our sovereignty so as to have one nation or another direct our lives. It doesn't matter if it's fascism or democracy, dictator or elected candidate, they're all pre-selected ahead of time. It is therefore illogical to feel anxious about policies that the red or blue party does. For what did you expect except to be bossed around? I mean, we are incapable of leading our own lives, right? Like the domineering culture found in the movie, we can examine how in our world too, equality has come to mean that some need to be made superior to others in order to manage and organize the inferiors. They do this in think tanks and scam events and organizations that citizens have always fallen for from the dawn of civilization. You see, soldiers do not fight for freedom or defense, but we are told it is patriotic to sacrifice for the place that we just happen to grow up in by chance. Ensuring peace or justice, those are simply euphemisms to trick innocent people into doing what politicians want by dying for land, resources, wealth, power, and control. And that's it. And police, they are there to protect and serve, just not you or I, rather the ruling class. We have been taught that money is something to base our self-worth and ambition around, but realistically it is just a tool to enslave us to a false paradigm. And you can check out the Matrix movie that I covered and the documentary that I feature in that one. But we do have to remember to care about invasive celebrity culture like sports, athletes, and movie and music stars, and especially royalty, because somehow knowing or aspiring to be some complete stranger is so important. If you notice in the movie how shocked Evie is to have butter, just like we're seeing with meat shortages and toilet paper runs and not a big enough supply of ventilators, I'll cover more on the purpose behind this supposed scarcity to come, but it's because most of the populace is content to comply and be obedient and complacent. But V has passion because he knows what life should be, and it's not in servitude. Evie is also surprised to see all the art in books, and it's obvious how well read and mannered V is, whether he had a tutor or he's just self-taught. Either way, it's better than the public education that we all receive. V is a protagonist that initiates and impacts the world with his will instead of just taking whatever is thrown at him. By his life or death, he at least attempts to change history and his destiny, opposed to, well, this is the way things are, so might as well accept it and get used to it. Or there's only two sure things in life, death and paying taxes. See how sad that is? Eventually, medical martial law will be casual, and we'll be alright with not being able to travel unless we have a virus-approved pass or we've all been tested, much like the Gestapo, where unless you had verified identification papers, you had to remain on government lockdown. This is just showing how history repeats itself. Just like our phones and contact tracing, They have always been able to track and analyze our data, but they like making things like Siri and Alexa and smart appliances sound so attractive, and now they don't have to hide it as much, make up excuses that from before 9/11 and the Patriot Act, they've been spying on us. What this movie indicates is that there are no Republican congressmen or Democratic senators. There are only those who rule and those who are ruled. The idea that government works for you or that we have representatives is just a facade, so we sustain the loving image of a president or mayor kissing babies or shaking hands with a common man. Once you can start to see through this, you'll begin to connect the dots that it's not America versus China or capitalism and socialism. Those are just the small pawns on the grand chessboard, so you never see what is really going on, but focus on the pieces that you're allowed to peek at. We are heading towards one world government, but we can't concentrate upon it properly because it is being deliberately hidden as we progress on that road. For instance, we began the year with the virus, then Black Lives Matter, next it'll be the election. This will go alongside the NFL so they can extract more money out of us fans, which will coincide probably with another virus spike. I'm guessing around the time of the playoffs, because there's no way they're going to cancel the Super Bowl. It's way too lucrative. And then next year might be followed by another push for gender equality or some other form of psychological warfare. But once you can zoom out and see the grand scale, then you can start to be more prepared. So altogether, just like the movie, how we see the people are not free, and like the Matrix movie, again, that I covered, makes it blatantly obvious. If you think you're not a slave, I'm sorry to say, but it will become more obvious with each passing day. We're entering the final rounds of the battle, but don't lose hope yet, because the more people that learn the truth, it increases our odds of victory. So today, I had a copy of the book, a physical copy to show, but I sold it over the weekend. It's my own book. It's called Hail Caesar. It's on Amazon. I'll put it in the description. I don't like going to big monopolies, but if it's free. Anyway, it's about the eternal nature of love and politics, and I show this through Julius Caesar, Cleopatra, Mark Antony, and some other characters. It kind of just speaks to the immortal ways rulers have always deceived populations, just like now, but every civilization likes to think itself so modern, but each generation is just repeating the same thing over and over. Instead of an accompanying documentary, today I have two recommended video clips. The first one is by Larkin. It's called The Tiny Dot. The second one is Charlie Chaplin, The Great Dictator speech. And these will each offer more information, new perspectives, so I recommend you check them out. Thanks.